You know that person, right? The one who's just brilliant, super quick, always has the right answer. But when you look at their life, something's off. They're just stuck. And maybe that person is a friend or someone in your family, or maybe, just maybe, if we're being really honest with ourselves, that person is you. I mean, you can feel it, right? That potential just bubbling under the surface. You know you're capable of so much more. But the results, they just aren't showing up. It's so frustrating, this weird paradox. So let's just ask the question head on. If you're so smart, why aren't you successful yet? Well, that's what we're going to break down right now. We're going to pull apart the invisible mental traps that are holding you back. You know, society loves to sell us this super simple story. If you're smart, you'll be successful. End of story. But that's a total myth. I mean, look around. The world is packed with brilliant people who are barely getting by, and at the same time, you see people with, let's say, average intelligence who are just crushing it. So what's the difference? It's not about what's between your ears. It's about what you do. Action. That's the real secret sauce, not just thinking. Okay, so where does this disconnect come from? You might think the biggest obstacles are, out there in the world. But the truth is, they're not. The biggest barriers are actually invisible. They're like these chains that your own mind, your own intelligence has created. And that brings us to the first big trap, something called analysis paralysis. See, your intelligence is kind of like a superpower, for sure, but it can also be your kryptonites. Because you're so smart, you see everything, every possible angle, every little thing that could go wrong, every potential outcome. So what happens when a great opportunity comes along? You don't take it. You just freeze. You get stuck analyzing it into the ground. And your mind just starts spinning, right? The first thought that pops in is always the big one. Oh, what if this fails? And that possibility, that negative outcome, it feels so real that it just stops you dead in your tracks. You haven't even started, and you're already defeated. Okay, then your brain goes into optimization mode. It starts hunting for the perfect strategy. You start thinking, maybe there's a better way to do this, a more efficient plan, or maybe there's an even better opportunity just around the corner that I should wait for. And then comes the final nail in the coffin, the killer question. Is this the perfect time? And while you're busy weighing every option, waiting for all the stars to perfectly align, guess what? Someone else, maybe someone who isn't even as smart as you, they've already started. They've probably already made a mistake, learned from it, and are now miles ahead. You're stuck in your head while the rest of the world is out there doing. Now, this whole overthinking thing, it's usually fueled by something much deeper. A second, even more powerful trap. A really intense fear of failure. And the crazy part is, this fear often comes from the one thing people have always praised you for. So let's break down how this works, because it's fascinating. It all starts when you're a kid, right? People tell you, wow, you're so smart. And you hear it over and over. Pretty soon, being the smart one isn't just a compliment. It becomes who you are. It's your whole identity. So now what happens when you face a real challenge? Something you might actually fail at? Well, suddenly, failure isn't just an outcome. Nope. It feels like a personal attack on your identity. And to protect that identity, what do? You just start avoiding the hard stuff. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. It's the brutal, honest truth. Look, success is literally built on a pile of mistakes and all the lessons you learn from them. So if you're afraid to fail, what you're really saying is that you're afraid to grow. It's like you're choosing to just stand in the shallow end of the pool for your whole life, too afraid to actually learn how to swim. All right, trap number 3. This one's a close cousin to the first two, and it's a real killer. Perfectionism. Oh man, this is that endless waiting game, waiting for the perfect idea, the perfect business plan, the perfect time to launch, the perfect thing to say. It's always, I'll start when. Let me be super clear. Perfection is a fantasy. It doesn't exist. It's just a really good excuse your brain uses to keep you safe in your comfort zone. Truly successful people, they don't wait for perfect. They start with good enough, and then they make it better along the way. Remember this, an imperfect action will always crush a perfect plan that just sits on a shelf. Okay, so we've talked about what's going on in your head, but it's not just about your thoughts. These mental traps, over time, they create these really powerful habits. And these habits can turn your cozy little comfort zone into a cage. So here's a really tricky habit a lot of smart people have. Because you pick things up so fast, you get bored really easily. You'll jump into a new project with all this fire and enthusiasm, but as soon as that initial, ooh, shiny challenge is over and the real kind of boring, repetitive work kicks in, you're out. You lose interest and you're already looking for the next exciting thing.
But here's the thing. Consistency is the ultimate superpower, seriously. Success isn't about these random flashes of genius. It's about the boring, relentless discipline of just showing up every single day, even when you don't feel like it. It's the whole tortoise and the hare story, right? The slow and steady tortoise always wins the race against the brilliant but lazy hare, every time.
And all of this leads to the final, biggest habit of all, getting stuck. I mean, really stuck in the comfort zone. Because you're smart, life can be, well, pretty easy. You can coast, you can solve the day-to-day problems without breaking a sweat, and live a life that's fine. It's manageable. But is manageable what you really want? Because growth doesn't happen there. Real success, the stuff you dream about, that only happens when you're willing to step outside that zone and get a little uncomfortable. Okay, so we've laid it all out. We've diagnosed the problem. We've put a name to the mental traps and the habits that have been keeping you stuck. So now what? Well, now we talk about how to fix it. Let's get into the solution. How do you actually break free and turn all that amazing potential inside you into real, tangible results? First things first, you gotta know your enemy. So let's just list them out one by one. We've got overthinking, fear of failure, perfectionism, lack of consistency, and of course, the big one, the comfort zone. Just seeing them all laid out like this is a huge first step because you can't fight an enemy you can't see. Now listen up because this next part is the most important thing you're going to hear today. Ready? These things we just listed, they are not you. They're not your destiny, they're not your personality, they are just habits. That's it. And you know what? Habits can be changed. They can be broken. You have total power over them. And it starts with something tiny. Just pick one. Let's say overthinking. Okay, here's your mission. The very next time you have a small decision to make, give yourself a 2-minute timer. That's it, 2 minutes. When the timer goes off, you make a choice. Boom, done. You're starting to build that action muscle. It's time to completely change how you play the game. Forget about being the smartest person in the room. That's not the prize. Instead, focus on being the most consistent person in the room. Be the most courageous one. Be the one who isn't afraid to stumble and look a little foolish on their way to success. This means you ship the project when it's a B- instead of waiting forever for an A+ that's never going to happen. It means you just do the work, even the boring stuff, especially the boring stuff. Because here's the bottom line, and it's a tough one. Your potential means nothing without execution. The world doesn't care what you could do. It only, and I mean only, rewards what you actually get done. So it all comes down to this, one simple question. What are you going to do next? Are you going to stay trapped inside your own head, analyzing, waiting, perfecting? Or are you finally going to take one small, messy, imperfect action? Your intelligence is an incredible gift, but it's just a tool. Your entire future is going to be decided by what you choose to do with it, starting right now.